Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to make a video going over all the best gear setups at level 1300 in RPG Sim, and also huge thanks to didnt for giving me the last couple of items I actually needed to make the video. And yeah, with that said, let's hop straight into the first setup. So this video is just going to be me pretty much rambling on for like 7 or 8 minutes on a whole bunch of stats and a whole bunch of random gear items. So with that said, I want to hop into the very first couple of items I want to talk about, and the very first thing I want to talk about is no matter what gear setup you're doing at level 1300, you're gonna need the enchanted Excalibur of Life. So this is by far the best weapon in the game. There is no comparison really, it is just unchallenged when it comes to how good it is. It has 810,000 damage, so it is by far the best. So I'm going to go ahead and equip that. No matter what gear setup you're using, you're going to always want the enchanted Excalibur of Life. And if you're finding that too hard to get, then just get the Excalibur of Life first, which is also very good, but the enchanted is of course the absolute peak. So your vanity obviously doesn't matter at all, just use whatever you want. I have a whole bunch of limited swords I switch out all the time. Right now I'm just using the Heartbreak because a lot of people seem to recognize that one. So now we're going to get more into variations and setups. So the very first setup I want to talk about in this video is your standard offensive setup, which is a setup you want to be going for most of the time in this game. No matter what offensive setup you're doing, you're always going to want to use the Life Bloom ring. It's by far the best offensive ring in the game. I've yet to get it from the boss, so huge thanks to didnt for letting me borrow that for this video. So yes, Life Bloom is fantastic. It gives 150,000 attack, 75 crit, and then 10,000 HP. So the reason why this is the best offensive ring in the game is because the only other thing that's really comparable is the Tesla ring, and then you also got the one ring from Archipelago. So the Trinket of Holy Light is your other offensive ring at 91,000 attack, so already Life Bloom gives more attack than that. And then the Tesla ring gives you a ton of critical, speed, and pretty much no other stats than that. So the only thing you're losing in Life Bloom is speed when you're not using Tesla ring, but you gain so much damage, so much HP, and so much critical that Life Bloom is pretty much a no-brainer. So next piece of gear you're going to want in your offensive setup, in my opinion, is going to be the Toxin Core. So I think the Toxin Core is pretty much the very best necklace in the entire game to use, no matter what setup you're using. I forgot the name of it, but the other hardcore necklace drop in Dr. V's Labyrinth is also a fantastic option. I'm going to put that one on screen. But Toxin Core gives so much attack, crit, speed, and a little bit of speed, and a good amount of HP, and is a very good all-rounder item to use for your offensive setup. So I definitely recommend you try to go for this. I know it is pretty hard to get because hardcore Dr. V's Labyrinth can still be a challenge even to this day when the cap is level 1300. Another option for necklaces besides the Toxin Core is also the Rose King's Pendant, but the reason why I don't think the Rose King's Pendant is as good in my personal opinion is the only thing you're getting is massive attack and good HP. Yes, that's great, but when you look at the Toxin Core, you're getting pretty close, pretty similar amount of damage. You're getting 30 crit and you're getting 5 speed and you're getting a lot more health. So overall, I do think the Toxin Core is better to use over the Rose King's Pendant, but the Rose King's Pendant is still a fantastic choice. So the armor that I'm going to be showing is pretty hard to get, but it is by far the best armor in the game at the moment for offense, and overall it is just the best well-rounded armor. It is the Vince Lightning Coat. So this requires only level 850. The only way to get this is by beating the Dr. V's Labyrinth on hardcore. So of course this is a hard one to get. 75,000 attack, 60 crit, 15 speed, 20 defense, 12,000 HP. So overall that is giving you fantastic well-rounded offensive and defensive stats. This robe is so good. The only other things you can really compare it to is the Armor of Photosynthesis, which is amazingly defensive, but I'm going to get into this piece of gear later. And then the only other things I really can think of you comparing it to would be the lower tier armor from Dr. V's Labyrinth, which is a toxic robe regeneration, and then the cyber armor of the future. However, for your offensive setup, you can always use the Armor of Photosynthesis for a more well-rounded stat pool, because you're going to be using Life Bloom, which gives amazing offensive stats, and then Toxin Core, of course, gives amazing offensive stats, and then the Armor of Photosynthesis gives you such high defensive stats, it actually lets you solo Dr. V's Labyrinth on hardcore with pretty much no problem. Your health pool becomes massive. Just by putting this on, I have 3.9 million health, and I don't even have max stats. As you can see, well, I have max stats with everything but HP, so But for the sake of the offensive gear, I'm going to put back on the other armor I was using. So when it comes to auras, you can pretty much just use whatever event aura you have. It is probably going to be your best aura. One that a lot of players are using at the moment are the snow wings. It gives 1 to all your stats. And one that I use all the time is the bellow aura, because it gives 1 attack, 2 crit, 4 speed, 3 defense, 5 HP, which is fantastic. I also have the silver crowns, the 2020 Easter exclusive. The golden crowns or wings, whatever it's called, is the best aura in the game. So if you have that, definitely use it. The Santa's sleigh is fantastic for its speed, but if you're looking for one you can actually farm in game, you want to get the supernova aura. This gives 2 to all your stats, but the thing is, if you get too high of a level, you actually can't get this. So where you farm this is the Sun Temple raid at level 130. This drops, and yeah, you shouldn't struggle too much to get it. Just make sure you farm this on a lower level character if you're already maxed, or make sure you farm this while you're leveling up. So as you can see, now that I have all my pieces of gear on, our stats are looking fantastic. We get plus 1,124,501 attack, which is absolutely huge. We get plus 215 crit, so we should be critting pretty much everything that we do. Plus 24 speed is huge. Plus 23 defense is kind of okay, and then plus 54,000 HP isn't great for being level 1,300, but we really only care about our offense. So in my opinion, this is by far the best offensive setup for gear in the game. You have just fantastic crit, fantastic damage, and great speed, and that is pretty much what you're looking for when you're going for offensive stats. So when you go into the runes for offense, the best rune you can use is the rune of the Azure Phoenix, and then the setup you want to use is Moon Cutters, Calamity, and Havoc. So this just absolutely shreds through bosses. For the Flower of Mystery, for example, this is by far, in my opinion, the best thing to use to farm it. You get massive damage output with both Havoc and Calamity, and overall the Azure rune is just an absolute powerhouse. One that is really good for mobbing is the rune of the Holy Light. So with this rune, if you use both the Piercing Strike, the Cloak of Light, and then Calamity, it is fantastic at cleaning up mobs super fast. As you can see, absolutely shreds mobs super duper fast. I do know that the Rune of the Holy Light is very hard to get at the moment, so it isn't a very viable option, but if you happen to have it, it is fantastic for just shredding through mobs. And then the last offensive rune that a lot of people use is Rune of the Ice Queen. Basically, you want to use Calamity with both Mending Sword and then Shatter. This gives you massive damage output. Mending Sword is a good constant and gives you just a huge radius. So Ice Queen is a fantastic rune if you don't have Azure, but in my opinion, you should really focus on using Azure if you're being an offensive hitter. So now I want to show off what I think is the best defensive gear setup in the entire game at the moment. So you're still going to be using the Enchanted Excalibur of Life. That is the best sword in the game. You're always going to use that no matter what. And now we're going to move over to rings. So there is a ring that drops from the Archipelago that is minus 10 speed and plus 100,000 health, but I don't think that's good because you lose so much speed. So the best defensive ring in the moment, in my opinion, is the Bracelet of Vine. So this gives you monstrous HP, as you see, plus 95,000. So now I'm already rocking 1.5 million HP. And again, I don't even have max HP stats yet. So once I have max HP, that's going to be way bigger number. So when it comes to necklaces, there is one I'm missing that I do think is pretty good, and that is the non-toxin chorus, the other hardcore only drop necklace. I'll put it on screen from Dr. V's Labyrinth. That one is a fantastic choice for defense, but another option you can always use is the Toxic necklace because it gives plus 5 speed, 30 defense, and 74,000 HP, which is still very good. With these items alone, I'm already at 2.3 million HP, which is fantastic, and then I'm also already sitting at plus 30 defense, so it's a very good setup. And then for armor, there is pretty much a no-brainer choice. You're gonna want the Armor of Photosynthesis if you're rocking defense. 16 speed, 30 defense, and 275,000 HP. Now I'm at 5.4 million, and again, I don't even have max health stats yet. I'm actually only at 40,000. So in my opinion, this is one of the best defensive setups you can do. I got plus 444,000 HP stats, and then plus 60 defense is great, with still plus 21 speed, and I still have plus 894,000 attack. And then for aura, you're just going to pretty much want whatever you have with its highest speed. For me, that is the Bubble aura. For a lot of people, that's Santa's Sleigh, and then also Supernova aura is a pretty fast one at 2 speed. Another armor piece you can use if you don't have the armor photosynthesis is, of course, the toxic robe regeneration, but you really want to try for the armor photosynthesis. If you're wondering where to get all the gear I'm talking about in this video, I did just recently upload my gear guide for levels 1000 to 1300, so I do recommend you watch that if you want to know where to actually farm everything. Now the final part of this video. So the final part of the gear setup for defense is, of course, the silencer rune. This is by far the only rune you should be using if you're being a defensive player. So with this rune, of course, you're using lure jab, you're going to be using calamity shout, and then you're also going to be using safeguard. So one, you can calamity your allies, but if your allies would rather you use mending, you can also use mending to heal them. The safeguard is to protect yourself, and then you're going to be oftentimes just running in straight to the boss to deliver that silencing blow for the extra damage. So yeah, this is in my opinion the best defensive setup. It is kind of funny that two of them are only rare items and not legendary or higher, but overall I do think this is the best defensive setup in the game. And I did forget to say this earlier, no matter what setup you're doing, you always want the tier 5 pet gem. Of course, it's the best pet gem in the game. By far, there's really nothing else to say about it. And yeah, that is my video on what I think are the best level 130 gear setups for RPG Sim. Leave a comment down below if you enjoyed, and let me know what you want to see me do next in this game. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all later this week with more videos. Bye!